Let me toggle on over. It's time. It's time. It's time to do a little reacting. Because this is a WillE video. WillE. Big fat WillE. This is a WillE video. And I used to watch WillE a lot when I was playing Classic an unhealthy amount. And I'm feeling a little unhealthy. I'm feeling unwell, if you will. So we're gonna watch it because it's stuff about Phase 2, and like there's no information about Phase 2. So I'm curious. I want to know.
Soon we will be in Phase 2 of Season of Discovery, and there are so many things to look forwards to. The new Gnomeregan raid with all its updated bosses and loot, the inevitable chaos of the
Door giveaway when I can make my rent off of streaming.
A whole host of new runes to get excited.
Stranglethorn.
Today, though,
Pause, champ. Stranglethorn Vale is going to be fucking AIDS. It's going to be horrific. Like, you thought, like, Azeroth on Fire was bad during Classic, but my god. Stranglethorn Vale is going to be hell, and I cannot wait for it.
Wanted to think about how us leveling up to 40 will affect our classes, both through our baseline abilities, as well as new talents that we'll have access to.
I already have one prediction for just getting a power boost in the next few levels. Rogue Tank is going to be possible, because as it stands, Rogue Tank's kind of bad right now. I think Rogue Tank is totally doable after this next power spike.
The level 25 bracket will end up being the most restrictive one for us by far, and just getting to level 40, even without the new runes, would see big power increases for many classes. And no, this isn't going to be a speculation video for future runes, because we really have no idea, so I'm just not going to worry about
That's also wild. It's wild they're adding even more runes. I didn't even think about that.
This is going to be what the video is all about. But even discounting new runes, I want to show you a little bit of how each class will be getting far more powerful, with our current runes, known abilities, and talents moving up to level.
I'm doing this later this week. Depending on when I hit level like 19 or whatever. Well, this is open world, so it doesn't matter as much, but I'm gonna do the Ashen Vale event. I haven't done it yet. I don't even know what to do in it, but I want to do it.
40. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Marvel Strike Force. Marvel Strike Force is a squad RPG that releases players in epic battles featuring their favorite superheroes and supervillains, all set in the expansive Marvel universe.
It hurts.
You power up your favorite characters by completing missions, unlocking new gear, and competing versus others in real-time PvP events. Of course, you can recruit a whole host of iconic characters from across the.
You know what that looks like? That looks like your sponsor, your old sponsor, your boy, Rady Shady.
Tons of the most well-known names such as Spider-Man, Deadpool, Captain America, and loads more. On top of that, new characters
Like it's like, yeah, no Spider-Man. There's like 4 or 5 Spider-Mans. Good God. They're capitalizing. They're capitalizing on the Spider-Verse hype. No cap. Dude, I don't know what Spider-Man it was, but he was just fluoride staring while fucking Miles was doing his shit. They're all fluoride staring. Holy shit. I like how it like dances around the fact that it's turn-based. It's kind of funny. Like you're looking at like Honkai Impact and it's or Honkai Star Rail or whatever it's called, and it's like it's apparent that it's turn-based when you play it, but when you're getting advertised it, they don't mention anything about it at all. It's whack. Like, I don't know if they think that they're going to get people to play their game that don't like turn-based games, because as soon as you realize it's a turn-based game, like, it's over. It's done for you. Your dick's soft.
Also, don't forget to use promo code CARDS for additional in-game rewards. Many thanks to Marvel Strike Force for the sponsor today. Let's get back to WoW. Warlock first. So if you played the whole Demonology tank thing so far this season, I'm sure you felt the burn of not having real AoE threat. Yes, there is Shadow Cleave, but it's just not very good, is it? So you end up tabbing and spamming Searing Pain. Now, I've seen plenty of comments over Phase 1 saying, wouldn't it be cool if Demonology had some kind of immolation type aura effect, similar to what Metamorphosis has in Wrath of the Lich King? And I have to say, I'm not sure Blizzard wants to give each tank good access to single target and AoE threat as part of a design choice this season.
That's a good design choice. You took classes not, like... Sorry. You took players not classes, right? And by making it so you have to choose specifically, like, oh, do we want a tank who can AoE or a tank that can do single target? Like, if there's access to both, it's going to make it far less fun than if there's not. Like, it gives you like a panic scenario, right? Like, this isn't even single versus multiple target, but like last night when I was doing our RFC with like a totally undergeared tank, like I, as the rogue, had to go and like peel basically like off tank in order to make it so he wouldn't die to the warlocks. Like, I think that's more enjoyable than just like fucking waffle stomping the dungeon. I think that's more fun. You have to actually think about what you're doing.
But even if we don't get a rune that does an immolation or a type effect, we already have it in the game. Kind of. It's learned at level 32, and it's called Hellfire. The Warlock channels over 15 seconds, causing 87 fire damage to themselves and all targets around them. Now, if we combine that with the Intensity talent in the Destruction tree, you avoid 70% of all spell knockback effects, which is already pretty good. But if we add a Concentration aura on the Alliance on top of that, you can reach spell knockback immunity, and the same can even be achieved on the Horde side now if you keep Earth Shield up all of the time. In other words, you can
That's
just run
cool.
into a bunch of mobs and sit there full channeling a Hellfire, and as long as there are no interrupt or stun effects, it's just gonna go through. And if there are, well, you can bring a free action potion and avoid that quite easily. But wait, there is more. So the Pyroclasm talent has a chance to add a stun onto Hellfire. Now, apparently this percentage chance for it to stun is once per channel, not per tick. Not so sure about that myself, but it still seems decent though. The interesting bit is when we add on our current runes though. So if you precasted an Incinerate on pull into a Lake of Fire, you're doing 65% bonus fire damage. This means Hellfire will go from
That's cool.
87 a tick to about 1.
The one thing is, like, I've only played a handful of classes in Classic, and one of them isn't even on Horde. It's Paladin, right? So the most experience I have on Classic is Shaman and Rogue and some Warrior, like very limited Warrior. So I don't have a baseline to tell how good these changes are, but they still look cool.
144. This means over 15 seconds, it'll be doing over 2,000 damage baseline. Sounds like a pretty nice setup for dungeons when you're gonna be running these runes anyway. You just...
It's a mage tank. Like, sure, it's Warlock, yeah, but it's Blizzard mage tank. That's what it is. They're probably going to be able to sell boosts.
Do need to respec into Destruction a little bit. Are there issues with this then? Well, there's two of them which I can see, yes. The first one up is, you guessed it, spell ranks. Rank 1 Hellfire is learned at level 32, rank 2 is rather painfully at 42, and rank 2 increases the base damage from 87 to about 144. If we had rank 2 with the extra fire runes active, it would be ticking for 238 a second, which would be completely insane. The second issue is, the extra fire damage you deal is probably going to also mean extra fire damage which you take as Hellfire ticks. Sure, you're going to be doing a lot of AoE damage to everything around you, but you're also going to be face tanking at the same time. Still with...
Hear me out. That sounds like from Class Fantasy, purely Class Fantasy, not game design. From Class Fantasy position, that sounds really cool. Because the whole like fucking thing with this like Destra Warlocks is you're hurting yourself to do big amounts of damage. Like that works. I think that's a good idea. Like if it does end up working like that, where the self damage scales as well, and it's really really hard to do, I think that makes sense because the whole point of that kind of Warlock is doing self-damage to do big damage.
For this, you should definitely be holding AoE threat, and it'll give the healer something to do, won't it? Next up is Mage. Mages are already doing unreal things in dungeons with their new toolkit. Regeneration, Living Flame, and Living Bomb are allowing them...
Ooh, another prediction. Mage healing is going to go insane. Mage healers are going to be nuts.
To effectively pull over 100 mobs in dungeons and straight up face tank them whilst healing through their damage due to how the power of their heals scale directly from...
Oh my god, Cam, if you're listening, Living Bomb. What the fuck is his name? The guy from League, the guy that you play, the Time Dude. His name starts with Z, right? The Time Dude. That guy. You should play Classic WoW with me.
From the number of mobs that there are. And this is classic mage too, so there is no diminishing returns for AoE effects after hitting a certain number of enemies. You could be hitting 100 or 1 million enemies, your abilities do the same damage. No wonder they changed this in TBC, by the way. But we aren't in TBC, we're in vanilla, so mages doing crazy stuff is very much in flavour. I also think Living Flame at the moment kind of goes to show you why when Blizzard did give Discipline Priests Atonement, they never gave them any extremely powerful AoE effects. So what I want to see at 40 is just how far can people take this. At the moment at 25, we don't really have too much.
I've already seen a lot of mages selling carries in RFC. It's gonna be wild, especially when you get to ZF, or no, not ZF, ZG. Yeah, when you get to ZG, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of mage abuse in ZG or ZF. Shit.
Many dungeons to test, and people just tend to boost or farm Ragefire Chasm or the Wailing Caverns. But by 40, we'll have Razorfang Crawl, the Scarlet Monastery, assuming it's open, parts of Alderman.
I am so excited to spend a day just sitting in the Scarlet Monastery leveling again. Actually, the best part of leveling in Classic, you just get to sit in a dungeon hub.
And parts of Razorfen Downs, but the biggest potential for money making is definitely in Zul'Farrak.
ZF.
In 2019, Classic Zul'Farrak was one of the go-to farming spots for mages, specifically the zombies that spawned in the rooms with the graves as you ran over them. Now the mobs there are level 43 to 44, so it's probably not going to work too well, especially since they're going to hit way harder and will have a much higher chance to resist spells, but their drop table for BOEs due to their level is going to be extremely good. There's also a chance the anti-boosty and gold farm changes are in the game from Season of Mastery 2.
Season of Mastery had anti-boosting? Zombie trolls in ZF now drop fewer lucrative... Okay, so they straight up nerfed the instance because it was being abused so hard. I actually wouldn't mind this being in SOD ZF from launch. That wouldn't be that bad.
Which, if you didn't know, made these Zul'Farrak zombies just drop less stuff in general.
I didn't have to read that.
They were way too good. Either way, whilst mages may have to go back to kiting mobs instead of face tanking elites, I kind of want to see how far they'll be able to push this new playstyle once we hit level 40. Maybe you even take a duo into Zul'Farrak, it could really be that good. For Priest, I don't have too many things to say really. My biggest hope for the phase is that Shadow Priests do start to come online, but for it to really do that, it both needs better mana.
Apparently Shadow Priest is already really popular, even though it's not like there yet. It's still baking, it's still cooking, you know? I don't know anything about priests. I've never even touched the class, but apparently I'm with the Beanie.
As well as some better scaling through stats. I've said it before, but Shadow Priests really gain a whole bunch through talent between 25 and 40. Shadow Weaving can stack up a plus 15% damage debuff on an enemy, Darkness is flat 10% more damage, and of course Shadow Form is a further 15% on top of that. But if you gave Priest straight up 40% more damage to all Shadow spells right now, as we are at the moment, they would probably move towards the middle of the table for PvE, whilst becoming completely insane in PvP, so it's gonna be a tough balance. I think
mind control! I forgot!
Phase not to sleep on is actually mind control. You get it at level 30 and it works.
It's not pre-watched, I promise.
We already know Noma's going to be the new raid, and I'll bet just like BFD, it has a bunch of new humanoid mobs inside, and they may well have some crazy buffs or debuffs that can be abused through mind control. And mind control has had a role in raiding here and there throughout Classic already. You can get a fire resist buff from Upper Blackrock Spire, which is super useful when taking on Ragnaros to reduce damage taken.
That's cool.
And Smelt Elementium, needed for Thunder Fury, is from a goblin that you have to mind control inside of Blackwing Lair. It should be interesting to see what new interactions this spell can have with the new content though. Next is Druid, and what I want to talk about is Star Surge. If you thought this ability was annoying this phase, just wait until Boomies have all their talents by level 40.
I am really happy to see Druids not being a complete fucking joke of a class again. Like, I don't like playing Druid. I'm never going to play a Druid. Fucking furry bait, right? But I'm very happy that they're getting toys to play with finally.
One thing it does say on the tooltip is that Star Surge benefits from most effects related to Wrath or Starfire, but I'm assuming it's just worded like this, so it's not intended to double dip from talents which affect both of those spells. Among other things, Moonkins will of course get Moonkin form, which is okay in vanilla. Honestly, it's more of a PvP
Best form. Best form. He's capping. It's the best form in the game.
talent. It grants 3% spell crit to party members, not the 5% it did in TBC, as well as granting 360% bonus armor contribution from items. Also, you can't cast utility restoration spells in Boomkin form, and it has no mana regen effects directly tied to it. But aside from that, on the talent tree for buffing up Star Surge, you have Moon Fury, which is just going to give you 10% more damage. Vengeance, increasing the critical strike damage bonus by 100%, so it will deal 2 times damage instead of 1.5 when it crits. And improves Starfire, which will give Star Surge a 15% chance to stun for 3 seconds. So druids at 40 will now be casting a 42-yard range, 2 times crit modifier, 15% chance to stun, instant cast nuke, which will cost about 10 or 12 mana with a 6-second cooldown.
That sounds 8.
Actually. Also at 40, druids get some pretty key abilities for general use too. Dire Bear form is just a bear form but better in all aspects. Feline Grace is your safe fall effect so you don't get knocked out of Prowl from full damage. And you
Cool.
get Innovate too, which no doubt your arcane mages will be informing you that they need off cooldown. The rogue has a
The one time I played Druid, I didn't even like get that far. Like I got my travel form and that's it. Like I didn't like the rotation at all. But seeing that, firstly, I didn't know you got knocked out of like your fucking form if you took fall damage, but it's cool that you have a save for that.
bunch to look forwards to as we head towards 40, including baseline abilities.
This is me. That's me right there.
Cheap shot, kidney shot, and blind. It's kind of your whole PvP toolkit you've been missing
Yeah.
during phase 1.
I mean, even though like I got dueled off stream earlier this morning and I held my own, but like it's very apparent that like my whole PvP kit is not on my character, and like yeah, I'm only level 15, but I'm getting there, right?
And rogues are already pretty good in PvP at level 25 somehow, so they're going to be monsters at 40. For the rogue tanking identity, it's worth bringing up that as we begin to progress into these later dungeons and raid tiers, Blizzard started to really enjoy just putting stuns all over the place. And as a tank, usually getting stunned is bad, but for a rogue tank where you're far more reliant on mitigation rather than high armor to reduce damage taken, it's extra bad. So whenever you do take a stun and you're tanking a bunch of stuff, your damage taken is going to spike way harder than other tanks.
It's good to know. Remember you have a kick. That's what this means. Remember the kick.
Your PvP trinket doesn't remove stuns because different PvP trinkets do different things in vanilla, but if you're heading into a particularly dangerous pack or are looking to pull quite a bit, reaction potions will go a long way to keeping you in the fight and not just sitting there in a stun taking way too much damage. Reaction potions themselves are fairly cheap and will remain a consumable that's used throughout the entire game, so it never hurts to have a few of them with you. Also, we don't know if rogue tanks
Alchemists be eating good.
AoE or an ability to allow ease of swapping combo points, and it's kind of similar to what I said about the locked tank. Blizzard don't seem to want every tank to have good AoE and good single target, but rogue at the moment really is just a pure single target tank. But for rogues to truly be
I was looking at this. It's very true. Like you only can fight one thing. Like it's not terrible. Like I said, it's not awful, but you're going to be left behind if it doesn't get better. You're gonna not get picked for groups if you say you're a rogue tank.
Be the best on single target, they're going to need some insane threat generation to make up for the fact they're going to be constantly having to tab. And then there is the off chance that in Gnomeregan, a lot of things are immune to bleeds and poisons, such as the room full of elementals where you usually jump down, as well as, well, mechanical stuff in...
That's gonna suck, because like 90% of like the big runes that rogues are using to get powerful, like there's 3 of them. There is the fucking poison bottle, the scimitar, and the poison finisher. That two-thirds of the big powerful runes are poison. I'm kind of glad that I'm tunnel visioning on gun abilities instead, because that sounds better for what's coming up.
In general, It may be time to break out the daggers and hope that Slaughter from the Shadows gets some more supports so you can play a proper
What about Between the Eyes? What about Quick Draw? Come on!
dagger build in this next level bracket. Whatever happens though, I can see rogues opting into playing combat from here on out though, unless there is some insane poison build that warrants going assassination. Blade Flurry and Adrenaline Rush are kinda just too good, and they only get better the shorter encounters are. And from what we've seen in BFD so far, and well, from how Classic usually is in general, I'm expecting some pretty fast encounters. Next we have Hunter, supposing they haven't been successfully nerfed out of the game by Phase 2 that is. Maybe it's just that Phase 1 Hunter was all about beast mastery, but Phase 2 will be where marksmanship and its abilities that scale with weapon damage will start to come on.
I will say it's cool to see Beast Mastery it's cool to see Marksmanship Hunter get like attention, because it's always like the Hunter class fantasy that 90% of the players are like, oh, I get to have a pet. I love having a pet. Sure, all the power to you, have a pet. Guns are cool. Like, when I played Hunter back in Legion, I played a lot of Beast Mastery, and then I was like, huh, I want to use a gun. And I started having infinitely more fun.
Line. But BM in Phase 2 really has a lot of things to be excited about. First up, you get a whole new pet which you couldn't access in Phase 1, the Gorilla. Elder Mistvale Gorillas, those are the ones just outside of Booty,
Big guy.
are level 40 and have Thunderstomp rank 2, which is a big AoE ability. Unfortunately, however, in Classic it has a 1 minute cooldown. Perhaps we get Rune of the Gorilla, where its cooldown is reduced massively, and it becomes your big AoE ability alongside Explosive Shot. Because looking at pets so far, such as Scorpion and Wind Serpent,
As far as I remember, Wind Serpent and that one lion, the white lion in the north side of the Barrens, are the two really big picks for pets in Phase 1.
having big focus spenders that do magic damage has been a pretty good thing so far. But all the same, BM's talents next phase are going to be huge. It could be that all these Hunter nerfs Blizzard have been doing have just been in preparation of the power they will receive next phase. So with the future talents, your pet will have 15% bonus critical strike chance, 30% extra attack speed, 20% bonus focus regen, as well as Bestial Wrath as your final talent. Bestial Wrath causes your pet to deal 50% bonus damage and be CC immune for 18 seconds. So yeah, even though Hunters have been getting nerf after nerf this phase, assuming pets still scale as well as they currently do, I'm expecting some pretty crazy performance next phase. Oh, and also a little side note for Hunters. If Blizzard can make a rune for Mongoose Bite for the melee Hunter so the ability is not legitimately a waste of gold to train, that would be great. Next we have Shaman, and in phase 1 the tanking
Shaman in Discovery is so cool because they made it so you can tank. That's so cool because Tank Shaman used to be a meme. Tank Shaman used to just be a joke, and now you can theoretically do it. That's so cool.
King spec has been amazing, but the other class identities have not quite been keeping up. I think Elemental has to be one of my top picks for a spec that should improve the most between 25 and 40. All the things at the bottom of your talent tree are just amazing. You'll be getting bonus range on Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, 100% bonus...
I gotta adjust. I gotta move my big cheeks. There we go.
Modifier, and this talent is also worded to include fire spells too. So
Ooh.
this is going to affect your Lava Burst. Lightning Mastery will reduce your main spell's cast times, and of course Elemental Mastery for the big double crit this spec is famous for. Also, Elemental is one of the best play specs in the game in terms of spell ranks, assuming that there's nothing being done about having poor spell ranks, that is, but rank 7 of Lightning Bolt is learned at 38, and rank 2 of Chain Lightning is at 40. This is literally about as good as it gets for being a caster. And
Chain Lightning the GOAT.
a buffed Overload to have a 50% proc chance, which is a crazy high number for all the abilities it affects. And don't forget,
I'm a fan of that.
You'll be getting Chain Heal, and that can proc off Overload too in Season of Discovery. And do you know when you learn Chain Heal? Level 40, so it's perfect spell rank wise. In fact, with Ancestral Guidance converting 100% of healing to damage, Restoration Shaman might even have these weird burst windows on certain bosses. Imagine the turtle boss in BFD. If after the shield breaks you stack everyone up and then just sent in 5 or 6 chain heals, with Ancestral Guidance and Trolls Berserking active, it would actually be doing quite a bit of damage back to the boss. For Enhance, of course, the thing you're all looking forward to...
That's actually really cool. Like that's a way to play a healer that gets to do like actual meaningful damage as long as you're coordinated with your party. That's actually pretty cool. I like that.
Is the Wind Fury weapon, giving you a chance to gain 2 extra attacks. And there is kind of also a soft confirmation there will be a rune to push 2-handed enhancement too. There's even been things data mined such as the new automatic crowd pummeler from Noma, which should be usable as well. I just hope Enhanced gets a bit more.
The crowd pummeler? The crowd pummeler is a fucking joke. Druids back in Mastery and Classic had to farm that specific weapon and have a bunch of them in their bags to keep their rotation up, I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm pretty sure Druid rotation was so absolutely dog shit, you needed to use the active on that weapon, like, every cooldown.
More in terms of new damage dealing abilities as well, and that Stormstrike sees a buff in some way because its current version in vanilla is really weak. All in all though, Shamans are looking to get a lot of fun toys next phase, and that's with or without us knowing the new runes. And now we get to the Paladins. Now Holy for healers is a bit on the weaker side at the moment, but I swear it's not far off from being a crazy good healer in Season of Discovery. Next phase, you'll be getting Illumination in your talent tree, meaning spell crits restore all of the mana that you spent on them. What will really decide Holy Pallies, though, is if Blizzard decide to give them a rune which actively does healing, such as Divine Radiance, Light of Dawn, Divine Light, something like that. At the moment, you can duplicate a bunch of heals thanks to Beacon of Light, but you're stuck casting these not very good classic spells. If you get a good rune alongside Beacon, Holy Pally stonks will go up fast. Holy Shock remains super underwhelming in Classic, however.
I didn't play Healer Paladin. I played Ret Paladin. I played the fucking meme spec. I played DPS Paladin.
They had to massively increase its damage and reduce its cooldown for Shocker Din to be a thing in TBC. Blizzard would have to make a rune to push this talent way beyond its capabilities at the moment. What I also want to see is whether tank paladins actually start to play prot and pick up consecration. And the determining factor is really going to be, will stuff in the raid actually be doing damage, or can you get away with being a rep pally that puts on Righteous Fury and just DPSs? Because in
Yes.
BSC, Palatanks
That is never the wrong answer. That is always the right answer. That is how you should play Paladin.
are doing exactly this. Also, Consecration is just, I mean, it's bad. Like, it's really bad. You can learn rank 3 at level 40, and it does 192 damage baseline over 8 seconds for 320 mana. You remember when we were talking about Warlocks earlier, and how 1 tick of Hellfire could do 144 damage? Assuming it scales with the runes, that is. That's quite a big difference. This is kind of the thing about tanking in Classic, though. It's all about threat, not mitigation. There is literally a handful of fights in the game that we know of, at least, where you must gear primarily for mitigation. The rest of the time, you just generate as much as possible for your DPS.
Fuck! I'm fine.
I have to stop what they're doing. We would need some real tank monster bosses and Noma runs for tanks to, well, start tanking properly. The final thing I want to see from Paladin's next phase is if anything new can be found with the Reckoning talent for PvP or PvE. So honestly, this is one of the most complicated talents in the game, and has a bunch of rules which the game does not inform you of in any way whatsoever, such as losing rec stacks when mounting, and not even being able to see how many stacks you have. Thanks for that, Blizz. It's always been a fun
That should just be a buff. That should just be a buff in the top right corner. It should tell you how many stacks you have.
talent in PvP though, especially when you fight someone that deals many small crits, such as a rogue or feral druid, and then you can just turn around, Hammer of Justice, unleash the
That's clearly an add-on, I think. But doesn't even need to be that complicated. That's a nice setup.
wreck stacks and one-shot them. Last but not least is the Warrior. So first I have my tinfoil theory on why Warrior is going to be getting Titan's Grip next phase. So the data mined automatic crowd pummeler, which we looked at earlier, specifically has classes that can use it on its tooltip, and it excludes Warrior. Why would it do that? Because if you had Titan's Grip, you could put this on your offhand, and whenever it comes off cooldown, you could activate a 50% attack speed buff for 30 seconds.
That's kind of based. Too bad that's not a thing.
Perhaps even too overpowered for the Warrior class. Just imagine a 50% attack speed buff on demand with all the flat damage increases you have. We don't even know what new weapons there will be next phase, but judging by what we can get at the moment, I think we can assume they're going to be really powerful. Of course, this is just a theory based off a data mine, but yeah, this could be happening. Secondly is that depending on bleed immunities inside the raid, if you can bleed stuff, you're gonna be playing arms. So it turns out there's currently a different version of Deep Wounds in the game compared to the vanilla reference client, and it's interacting in ways which it usually doesn't, such as stacking its damage instead of refreshing and applying from offhands. This buff, and it is a buff, is playing a decent part in the Warriors' performance in BF.
Hey,
and as long
that's
as this
me!
version of Deep Wounds exists, I can only see it getting stronger, and that Warriors will continue to build around it. It may be somewhat similar to the TBC version of Warriors, where you played arms, but you still dual-wielded instead of going two-handed. It's a bit more counterintuitive, but hey, more damage is more damage. And that is everything I have for today. One thing for each
That TBC sword's based. That is the best blacksmithing sword ever. I think it's like Lionheart or some shit like that. It's such a cool sword.
That given our current runes and the known abilities and talents which come in at level 40, that we should have to look forwards to. Of course, the runes next phase are expected to be super impactful to gameplay, just as runes have been in phase 1. So whilst a ton is unknown about phase 2, we can still make some decent estimates for what will be possible. Let me know if there's any builds that you have planned for next phase and what abilities you're looking forwards to trying out the most in the comments down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you on the next one very soon.
Oh boy, more WoW content. Oh boy. Realistically, I'm really excited for where Tank Rogue's gonna go. Like, I'm actually unironically excited for that. That sounds so cool. I really hope it works. I really hope it's not absolute dog shit. I really want to try it. I want to do it. Phase 2, I kind of want to have enough gear that I can main DPS, off tank. I can do both. I can fill. I want it. I need it. I want to do both. It sounds fun. It actually sounds so enjoyable. Give me a second, and it'll be time to play WoW.